The next chapter in the race for the Republican presidential nomination. On Friday, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott announced he's backing former President Donald Trump. The endorsement coming 4 days before the New Hampshire primary. The Granite State, which has long held the nation's first primary, has often weighed heavily on who becomes both parties' choice for president. For more on how New Hampshire's impacted the race over the years, we're joined by CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe in our Washington newsroom. Ed, good morning.
Dana, good morning. You know, while Iowa and its caucuses went first last week, it's New Hampshire with the more traditional primary this coming Tuesday. The state's quite protective of its first-in-the-nation status, so protective, in fact, it's now law. But even the current president has tried to stop the state from going first. Now, it's New Hampshire's turn.
Politics is our state sport.
The Granite State has been holding its primary for more than 100 years.
I think it's important to people here because they're, educated in politics and they feel that goes back to their roots.
New Hampshire voters use every bit of Yankee ingenuity to get to the polls. One well-known dog sled racer offered voters a sledding taxi service.
In New Hampshire, they take such pride in their first-in-the-nation status that it's now state law. They must hold the first primary.
Why change it? Trying to stack the deck so someone else can win because they can't win here so they can win somewhere else is crazy.
The state's been the site of several twists and turns, like 3 days before the 1980 GOP primary. A newspaper debate had been deemed in violation of federal election rules, so then candidate Ronald Reagan offered to pay for it. But the paper invited only Reagan and top challenger George H.W. Bush to go one-on-one. Reagan wanted lesser-known contenders to also appear. The moderator disagreed. Reagan interrupted.
Excuse me, Governor Reagan. Would the sound man please turn Mr. Reagan's mic off for the moment?
And it led to this political mic drop.
I am paying for this microphone.
There won't be any debate drama this year, as the qualifying candidates wouldn't agree to appear together. Most New Hampshire voters are registered undeclared, but they can still participate in the primary.
I think that there is just a strong independent cohort here in New Hampshire.
The undeclared are a huge target for candidates with potential crossover appeal. This year, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley is especially eager to win them.
You know how to do this. You know Iowa starts it. You know that you correct it.
And she's got a point. New Hampshire Republicans usually get it right. As for Democrats, New Hampshire is the state where Senator Gary Hart hit the target. Yeah. And where, despite coming in second in 1992, Bill Clinton held on.
I'll never forget who gave me a second chance, and I'll be there for you till the last dog dies.
But this year's Democratic primary won't count. The Democratic National Committee has adopted a new calendar that drops New Hampshire further back in favor of South Carolina's February 3rd primary. But New Hampshire Democrats are following state law and holding their primary anyway. The president won't be on the ballot and hasn't campaigned in the state. Instead, supporters are running a Biden write-in campaign. He's opposed by Minnesota Congressman Dean Phillips, a long shot, expected to lose. But something similar has happened before in New Hampshire. In 1968, another Minnesota lawmaker, Eugene McCarthy, challenged another incumbent president, Lyndon Johnson, who only ran a write-in campaign. Johnson didn't campaign in New Hampshire and barely won. Just days later,
good evening, my fellow Americans.
Johnson dropped out.
I shall not seek, and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president.
Now, we're not expecting something like that to happen this time, but it was President Biden who said New Hampshire should no longer go first for Democrats, arguing South Carolina and its more diverse, predominantly black Democratic voter base should get a chance to weigh in first, especially because they've been so loyal to Democrats through the years. We'll see if New Hampshire holds that against the president on Tuesday when Democrats and Republicans go to the polls.
And we've talked about this for a long time. Everybody wants to be first, whether it's a primary or a caucus. Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. How much does it matter?
Well, given how very quickly now, former President Trump has managed to get the Republican Party to close ranks behind him just a few days after the Iowa caucuses, and looking at how it's going to be really hard for Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley to hold on potentially after New Hampshire if they can't stay close to the former president. It is a huge influential part of the process, and such a small group of people having such incredible power over how the country picks a president. Both of these states, with fewer than 3 million people in Iowa, only about 1 million or so in New Hampshire. They have incredible outsized influence.
Ed O'Keefe, properly de-thawed from Iowa. Thank you very much, Ed. Good to see you.